Did President Trump file a lawsuit to have George Soros deported from the country? No, that's not true. The story was published by a liberal satire website that tries to fool Trump supporters and Republicans into sharing made-up stories that are clearly marked as satire when you actually click them. Articles from the site are frequently copied by foreign-run fake news websites. The people liking and sharing these stories are enriching foreign website operators, or a liberal from Maine, via the ad revenue generated with the content, which is probably not what they expected or wanted. The story originated from an article published by Daily World Update on August 5, 2019 titled, "Trump Files Lawsuit to Deport George Soros," which opened, quote, "Citing his crimes against humanity in World War II, his consistent manipulation of world markets to further enrich himself, and his continued assault on the values of the average American, President Donald Jabroni Trump has initiated proceedings to further a lawsuit aimed at having evil, villainous, omniscient, criminal mastermind George Soros deported from the United States back to his native European country that changes depending on whichever trustworthy journalistic source tells the story of his life." And here he shared a few thoughts on the matter. George Snuffleupagus Soros has spent decades terrorizing the world with his forced economic policy on lesser nations than ours, his manipulation of world money markets to satisfy his lusty greed, his opposition to powerful, magnificent governments such as my own, and his construction of coups to dethrone the rich, powerful, and vicious despots installed by America throughout the world, all of which has come together in a pattern reminiscent of past treasonous activities from past traitors, and so we have decided to act by having this horrible, disgusting piece of human excrement deported from these United States of America through a lawsuit filed today." End quote. Users on social media only saw this title, description and thumbnail. Quote, "Trump files lawsuit to deport George Soros citing his crimes against humanity in World War II, his consistent manipulation of world markets to further enrich himself, and his continued assault on the values of the average American, preside." End quote. The story was posted under the category satire and/or conservative fan fiction, spooky scary Soros conspiracy satire, and sported multiple satire disclaimers besides being stuffed to the gills with hints that the story was not true. Donald Jabroni Trump, really? Despite this, the story was readily copied by several sites, likely foreign-run, that presented it as news. The site is part of the America's Last Line of Defense network of satire websites run by self-professed liberal troll Christopher Blair from Maine along with a loose confederation of friends and allies. Blair has been in a feud with fact-checking website Snopes for some time now and has also criticized other fact-checkers in the past who labeled his work fake news instead of satire. In reaction to this, he has recently rebranded all his active websites and Facebook pages so they carry extremely visible disclaimers everywhere. Every site in the network has an About page that reads, in part, quote, "About satire before you complain and decide satire is synonymous with comedy, sat-ire sati, renounce use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. Everything on this website is fiction. It is not a lie and it is not fake news because it is not real. If you believe that it is real, you should have your head examined. Any similarities between this site's pure fantasy and actual people, places, and events are purely coincidental and all images should be considered altered and satirical. See above if you're still having an issue with that satire thing." End quote. Articles from Blair's sites frequently get copied by real fake news sites who often omit the satire disclaimer and any other hints the stories are fake. Blair has tried to get these sites shut down in the past but new ones keep cropping up. Here is a video of Blair explaining how his process works. If you are interested in learning more about Blair and the history of his sites, here is something to get you started. Quote, "The ultimate Christopher Blair and America's Last Line of Defense reading list, lead stories story updated, check for updates below." Yesterday Eli Saslow at The Washington Post wrote a fantastic article about Christopher Blair, a man from Maine who has been trolling conservatives and Trump supporters online for years and occasionally even made a living out of it. End quote.